What's up, everyone, and welcome to the 40th episode of the Control Freak podcast, the only Magic the Gathering podcast devoted to all things Control in Standard, Modern, and Pioneer. Today we have on a very special guest, the one and only Sean Mogelgaard. Sean, how you doing today?
I'm doing pretty good, thanks.
Awesome, man. Well, you just top four'd the SCG Indy Pioneer Open with what else? Blue-white Control. And today we're going to be talking about that experience, just getting to know you as a player, and really just diving into your origin story, as well as breaking down the metagame for not only Pioneer, but also Modern. But before we do that, let me get the housekeeping stuff right out of the way. Big shout out to the podcast sponsor, Team Solitary Pro. Check out their information in the link below. And, of course, the lovely patrons over at my Patreon, patreon.com/LessAlex. We just eclipsed another goal, which is insane. Shout out to all my patrons over there. And if you dig the podcast, head on over there and consider becoming a Patreon member, because it really does. It helps so much with advancing the quality of the content that I produce. And I just got an affiliate link for tcgplayer.com. So if you're on the website over there and you're searching for Magic cards, because, people still play paper Magic occasionally, head on over there. That affiliate link will be in the show notes below as well. And I do get a little kickback whenever anyone clicks that link and buys cards over there. So let's get into this. I know that was a little bit long-winded. But let's get into this. You just top four'd the SCG Open. But before we talk about that, I want to do what I almost do with all my newer guests on the show. I want to really get your origin story and how you originally started playing Magic, like what initially drew you in, what set it was, and all that. So take us back in time, rewind the clocks, and what was your origin story?
All right, well, it was sophomore year of high school, I think 2014. I think it was like right after like Born of the Gods or something just came out.
Okay.
My friend Michael Chemness was sitting at the lunch table with some of his other friends, and they're playing this card game. And I'm like, oh, what are you guys playing? And they were playing like super casual Magic. And I remember they handed me a werewolf deck with none of the checklist cards, so you just had like double-sided cards. Yeah, sided cards in it.
I know what you're drawing next.
Yeah, exactly. It was so wild. And then so I played that. That was my and then the first ever deck I owned was like the Heroes versus Monsters deck.
Yeah,
like that
okay.
thing. And I just shuffled the two decks together, and that was my first deck.
Your deck's like like a commander deck size.
Yeah, absolutely. Because why would I take any of the cards out? They're all so good, right?
They're all great.
They're all great. So that's how I started. And then my introduction to like competitive Magic was my first LGS. This guy named Ron Stokes handed me the 4-color control deck he played during Lorwyn Standard with like Cryptic Command and Cruel Ultimatum and all that stuff.
Sure.
And most of it was Modern legal, and he's like, yeah, man, just play that. So
Modern tournament, was this an F&M or like?
It was like a casual Modern event, because this was like the third event that the store's ever done. It just opened up.
Oh, okay.
So yeah, and it was an experience. I didn't like know any better. So I was just like, dude, this deck is so cool. I want to make 4 colors work and like all that.
Yeah.
Who needs a functioning mana base? Not
right.
me. Yeah, land sounds good.
Well, yeah. If you talk to a lot of people trying to force Esper and Pioneer, I would. A lot of people think, who needs mana bases?
Listen, I love Esper, and like, there's a reason I'm just playing blue white, man. I can't make it work.
Oh man,
it's hard to make it work.
I've talked to so many people in Discords and on Facebook groups and stuff, and even on Reddit, and it's like, don't try Esper. It's like, in Pioneer, right? In Pioneer, the mana base is just
it's just like, what are you trying to play Esper for? Like, there's not a huge draw. Sure, you get Thoughtseize, but like, it's not applying any pressure, and it's not like Modern where you can like, use the hand disruption in a much, more power, like in a much better way to like plan your hand out. It's Pioneer is so dynamic, but anyways, yeah. So from that first control deck, my buddy John Paul Jansen, he said, "Hey, you should probably play three of those colors." I played Jeskai. And then from Jeskai, I played blue white, and then I met John Farrow.
Yeah.
Good.
We've talked about him a couple times on the podcast, and
Absolutely. He's an insane blue white player. He helped me level up from like, being like F&M player to like an actual person, like an actual player,
you were the in boss, and now you are the top
yeah,
8 in opens and stuff.
yeah,
So.
exactly. And it's like, he really helped me, just like figuring out like when you're playing control, like what's relevant, what's not relevant,
Sure.
like I remember, there's a few times when we were playing, it's just like, he's just like, why'd you do that? And I'm like, oh, this is my thought process. He's like, yeah, but like, is that really that relevant compared to like these other things? And
Yeah.
he helped me grow so much as a player. So
And that type of person is like super important, not only for like blue white. I mean, I feel like it is very important to have someone like that around you if you are trying to play a control deck, but also just for Magic, learning the game in general, like having somebody who's not going to be, because Magic players, and I love Magic players, but sometimes Magic players can be a little bit conceited or cocky whenever they're like
oh no, never.
talking about lines, right? Like this,
Yeah.
that was wrong, or like they always know the matchup is like excellent. Every
always
single
important.
matchup is excellent.
Yeah,
And it's good to have someone to your experience. Like speaking on your experience, from the way I take it in, is like having someone there that isn't going to like talk down to you, but talk to you as an equal, and
exactly.
just like try and teach you, right?
Exactly.
So,
And that's really what he did is like, when I first met him, he just got back into playing Magic after a long break.
nice.
And then it took him like no time to get caught back up with things. And then, when it was Blue White Miracles is the first deck that we were like playing and working on together at like an open. I think it was like the Atlanta Open in like 2018 or something like that. But we were just talking about this deck.
Was that in Modern or in Legacy?
That was Modern. Yeah, it was Modern.
Okay.
And because this was like right when Miracles was popping off, this was like when Humans, I think, was like one of the bigger decks, right? And just from there, he really helped me grow like as a player, and how I understand matchups, and how I understand like when to become proactive and aggressive,
Right.
or
When to start turning the corner.
Exactly.
When knowing what to counter and what to let resolve, kind of things.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Because it's all like a numbers game. Why would I counter this thing when I have 4 Terminuses left in my deck? I have 2 ops in my hand, and I've already seen like the top X cards and blah 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 blah. Right.
Right.
But I never really like thought of that before. Him just saying, "Hey, think about it like this." Right.
Absolutely.
So,
Yeah.
I get just a big props to that guy. But that's pretty much my origin story. And then, like from there, I remember he's like, "Yeah, you should probably play a third color," because this was like around when Phoenix was kind of starting.
Okay.
He was like, "Yeah, you're good at blue white, but I think just like how you play, it might be better to play a third color." So I used to play Jeskai a lot.
Yeah.
But then, like just with Phoenix, they were playing like 04s and stuff, so Bolt was bad. So I'm like, I'm gonna try Esper. Like that's my first Esper charm, and I'm like, no, well, it's over. This is great.
That card's nuts.
Yeah. So
awesome. So hanging out at it's always funny too, because it always seems like it's like the origin story begins in a cafeteria at school. Like that's how almost everybody got started. No, but and then you met John, and he kind of taught you up and helped you out with the lines on how to actually play control and step your game up. That's awesome. I think that's like a very good origin story, especially since like John's like, as we were talking in the pre-show, I'm friends with him on Twitter, and like I played the list that you top forward with at an LGS event over the weekend, and he was like, he sent me his entire sideboard guide and everything, so he's like very willing to just like help anyone who wants it, and that's awesome. That's very good to have someone in our community like that. And it seems like in the control community in general, people are pretty willing to help each other out. There's not too many trolls, So.
Oh no, for sure. like I feel like a lot of people, especially in the control community, like we're all out here to just help each other, right? Like we all
Yeah.
have this, you know, I don't know, this yearning to play these counterspell decks for some reason.
Yeah.
Especially in like format like modern. I'm here to play Celestial Colonnade when
Yeah.
other people are here casting like Urzas and
Right.
so.
Zero win conditions. That's my go-to.
Oh yeah, yeah. I remember like John always called it like win by demoralization. So
Yeah. Let's make them scoop.
just make them scoop.
Absolutely. So, moving on. What is your favorite card of all time? Your favorite deck of all time, and then your favorite format? You can say all time, but like I also like want to know currently. So.
Okay. So favorite card of all time is Esper Charm. Obviously,
Absolutely.
I have a tattoo of it. It's
Oh,
like
nice.
um, let's see, my favorite deck of all time, probably also Esper Control.
There we go.
If I had
I
to
mean,
pick
you are that Esper guy on
yeah,
Twitter, so
if I had to pick like a specific one, it would probably be when Phoenix Inhuman was the best deck right before Modern Horizons. It was so sweet. It was like you playing like Kaya and like Hieroglyphic Illuminations and Nile Spell Bombs, and it was just it was so much fun. Oh, that was such a fun deck.
So I was playing blue white at the time, but I saw that there was like 5-0s of, and I mean, I guess in some of the actual bigger tournaments, you would see them like top 32 occasionally too.
Yeah.
And I forget who it was, but somebody on Twitter was really like championing Esper Control, saying like how insane Esper Charm was. I don't think it was you. It was somebody else. I wouldn't remember. I would have remembered if it was you, but like
it could have been. I remember right before Horizons, it was SCG Cleveland. Zach Allen top eighted. He got second in the Open with Esper Control, and I got eighth in the Classic with Esper Control.
Yeah,
like the same thing, and that was like right when Phoenix and Humans were at this like peak popularity.
Gotcha.
Or the great huge fun Hogak summer. We all had a great time.
Yeah.
Yep.
Those were fun. So Esper Charm,
yep.
Esper the deck during Modern, whenever Phoenix was the deck, and then favorite format. What's your favorite format currently?
Currently, man, I know. I think Modern's pretty sweet. Like, I think the like Underworld Breach deck might be a little bit broken, but all things considered, Modern's like in like a relatively okay-ish spot compared to where it's been with like, the Oko Monopoly and then like the Hogak. So I think compared to that time, Modern's in a pretty good spot, but I gotta say Pioneer's actually really awesome. Yeah. I didn't have much experience with Pioneer prior to this event, but like after playing it and seeing like this format's really fun. This format's really cool. It's super diverse. It's super open. Like even though there are all these best decks, I still played I played like Feather day 2, right?
Wow.
Like, right, and we put it, and it was at the X1s, right? It was it was up there, and it was super fast and aggressive, and I'm like, man, this is really cool, that. So Pioneer is probably my favorite format right now.
Awesome. Yeah, I agree. I think Pioneer. I really haven't touched Modern since Pioneer became a format. So I think I played a little bit of Storm a couple of times, like just to take a break from Blue White and Pioneer. But cool. So Esper Charm, Esper, and Pioneer currently. Awesome. So. Currently, you've had obviously this insane run over the weekend at SCG Indy, but what is your highest high in terms of like best Magic the Gathering accomplishment? Is this it, or is there something that's a little bit more sentimental to you? Or
I think sentimental.
I threw you a curveball. I'm sorry. I went off script.
You're fine. I mean, like obviously this is, like the best I've done.
Right.
I think like sentimentally, probably the first time I day 2'd a GP was GP Tampa. I mean, I ended like 160 something, but like, I day 2'd with Esper Control, and it was the first time that I ever thought like, man, maybe I'm actually like, maybe this deck could be real. Maybe maybe Esper Charm is more than just like me thinking this card's cool. Like maybe it's actually good.
Yeah.
So I think sentimentally, just day twoing that event was probably like the best I've ever felt about an event.
Hell yeah. And it's like validation, right?
Yeah.
Not only for the deck and the card,
Yeah.
but like I'm sure, and I don't want to speak for you, but like for you, right?
Yeah.
If that was your first GP day two, like hell yeah.
Yeah. And then like on top of that, it's just like all these people are always saying like, oh, Esper Charm's not really that good, or like, just like Blue White or something like that.
Haters. That's what we call those.
Haters flow like water. But, finally doing well at an event with the deck just like made me feel really good. Like, okay, I'm validated.
Yeah.
No one can talk me out of it now. I'm too deep.
That's what it's all about. Yeah, it's always in life. Obviously, you have to ignore what it's the noise. That's what I call it. You got to ignore people. But like in Magic, you should listen to an extent of what people that you consider are unequal or obviously better players than you. But whenever you have an experience like that and you break through, that's awesome, dude. That you block out that noise.
Yeah, and it a lot of times it's just like friends trying to like help you get better, help you like get over something, right? Like I know they weren't doing it like, maliciously or anything like that.
Yeah.
But it was just like it just helped me stay stubborn.
Yeah, I mean, what are they gonna do at that point? Like, exactly. I got a GP day too. Like,
yeah, exactly. I'm just like, well, you scrubbed out, so it's fine. I'm validated.
Yeah. That's awesome. Oh, okay. So So yeah, I'm glad I asked that caveat of the question because I don't think if I would have thrown that in there, you'd been like, yeah, we top four. Hell yeah. So I'm glad I threw that.
And I don't want to devalue the top four because that was a great feeling. Don't get me wrong.
Oh yeah, I'm sure. That was the thing. So for the listeners, I was actually at SCG Indy, and the entire weekend I hear this Sean, or I heard that someone was doing really well with Blue White, right? And I was like, okay, well, who is it? Because I didn't know. I knew that Zach Allen was playing Inverter, so I knew it wasn't him. And I was like, who was crazy enough to play Blue White other than me, right? And so at day two, I was playing in the Classic. I qualified for the Classic because Thoughtseize is a really good card, and I played against all black decks game one, or during the Open. Yeah, I mulliganed to 5 and got Thoughtseize 3 times. It felt great.
Oh, we love it when that happens.
Yeah. So I'm like, who the hell is playing Blue White? So I finally went over to the feature match area in between rounds, and I saw it was you and Sean Mogelgaard. I was like, oh, okay. And that's Harry, who's actually been on the podcast in previous episodes. Harry MTG had told me about you, and I keep tabs is a creepy way to put it, but like I like to keep up with like the people who are pretty proficient with control decks. And when I found out it was you, I was like, oh, dude, I have to get like win, lose, or draw, whether you top 8'd, top 16, or won the whole damn thing. I'm like, I got to get him on the podcast. So it was a fun time to be just around the event space. Just the fact that I was at an event where Blue White was just crushing it. So cool. Yeah. So that was the highest high, which was day twoing that GP with a deck that you were, dead set on proving the homies wrong.
Exactly.
So that feels great. But flip side of that coin, got to talk about the lowest low. So take me through that. Dig deep.
Lowest low. Man. Okay. So when asking this, are you asking like reflecting back on it, the lowest low, or is it in the moment the lowest low?
Let's do in the moment. That's a good counter question, but in the moment, like, because there are times. Yeah, I'll just let you go.
All right, cool.
In the moment.
All right, so lowest low, probably in the top 4. I kept an awful hand game 2, and I like looked at it and I thought to myself, oh, this is awful. I'll keep. And then I'm like, no, why'd I say that? But here we are. It was 5 lands, Elspeth the Fairy, and I'm like, dude, what am I doing?
Yeah, we were on our way home, and one of my buddies, Matt, was in the back seat, and he's like, "Dude, why did he just keep that hand?"
I don't know, dude.
And I'm like,
and
because you didn't mulligan, did you?
no,
It was
I
just
don't know
like
if
a 7 keep, like.
yeah, I
And
was just
I came to your defense like really quick. I was like, look, okay, sometimes when you're playing blue-white, you got to keep some risky ones. Just not even knowing exactly what you had kept. And then
I don't know what I was thinking. I honestly, biggest dumbest mistake I've ever made playing this deck.
I mean,
And it's like, I can blame
Yeah.
like fatigue and stuff, but like, man, I don't know. I just like wasn't thinking it. I don't know.
How many times had you? So you were playing against Inverter, obviously, because the top 4 was all Inverter other than you. How was your matchups? Obviously, the matchup is like fine, right? It's not
Game
great,
1.
it's not bad, but like during the tournament, how many times did you play against Inverter?
5 times. I played against
Jesus Christ.
everyone. It was all in day 2, except for one. So my last 4 rounds of day 2 before I ID'd was inverter, and it was every single inverter player in the top 8.
Wow.
Were my 4 inverter players, and I lost to one of them, and I beat all the other ones. I beat it was like Ben Collins, and then he's on Team BCW, really good player. I don't know why I'm forgetting his name.
Pete Ingram?
Yes, I played against Pete Ingram. I knocked him off of XO.
Nice. Yeah.
And like that matchup, game 1 is pretty bad unless you find both your Gideons, because they'll always kill the first one with Hero's Downfall.
Oh, absolutely. Every time.
And then
You're like Emblem. They're like boom.
yeah, exactly.
like like
I
that.
just expect it. And
Yep.
It's like, okay, yeah, that's fine. But I played and beat all of them except for one, so
Wow,
I felt kind of okay. It's just game 2. I don't know what I was doing, man. It was wild.
Yeah, I mean everybody has those moments, though.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
And I do stand by the statement that I told Matt in the car ride home. Sometimes you just gotta keep and pray, right? Now,
Yeah.
Especially, and that's one thing I said too, and I'll say it again, is like, especially in top 8 of an open, like, I don't know about you, but my one and only top 8, the nerves were just like through the freaking roof for me personally.
For sure.
Like,
And it's like, my whole family's watching, my friends are watching. Like, I feel my phone vibrating from my bag.
oh my God, yep.
Like, almost nonstop, and I'm like, okay,
Yep.
Yeah, so.
No, I hear you, man. Sometimes it is what it is, but
Yeah.
I'm sure if you ever have to do it again, you'll never do that again.
No, absolutely not. Never. I will snap mulligan every time. Turns out 4-drop, 5-drop, 5 lands is bad. Who knew?
Who knew? Who would have thunk it?
Who could have guessed?
Yeah. No, I think that sometimes you just have a brain fart, but we're here to learn. That's from day 1 of this podcast. My very first episode, recorded in a car and on my phone. I said I wanted people to. What I want people to get out of this is to learn and get better. That's what I want from just playing Magic, and that's what I want people to get out of this podcast. And I'm sure that 100 times out of 100 times from now on, you will not keep that hand against.
Oh, absolutely.
So,
and you know what? This is a message to the people. Don't keep 4-drop, 5-drop, 5-land hands. It won't work out. Turns out your opponents can interact.
Yeah.
It's wild. And I think, if you don't mind, can I answer like the?
Yeah, go for it.
So like looking back, I think sometimes like looking at like old decks that I used to play.
Sure, and you're talking about like lowest low looking, but like in retrospect.
Looking back, I played like this IQ in Dalton, Georgia, and I played this deck with like 4 spell snares in it for some reason.
Oh,
and
wow.
I'm like, dude, what was I thinking? I remember it was Jeskai deck right after Nahiri came out, and I was like, nah, I don't want to play Emrakul. I want to play Elesh Norn and Inferno Titan. And I'm like, dude, what are you doing?
Right.
So yeah, looking back like that is probably my lowest low. Is just like looking back, just like that's connected to my name forever. Sick.
Yeah. Well, again, we learn.
No, exactly.
And we move forward.
We're here. It's here to grow, but probably that, or like, yeah, it's probably that.
Right on. So in the moment, top 4,
Easy.
keeping a stinker, and then
Super
driving a couple hours to register X4 spell snares. So
it was just, a big brain, right?
yeah, I mean, sometimes you got the metagame pegged.
Yep. Look like you. I got the metagame on spot.
Right.
So.
Man, IQs are such crapshoots anyway. It's like,
Oh,
man.
oh man, they are. I remember I was working for a Pioneer IQ we had a few weeks ago at the store that I work at, and
Sure.
like it was like a 60-player IQ, and then just like looking at some of these decks that these people brought, and I'm just like, dude,
What in the
I
world?
never could have metagame for this thing. Like, there's no way you can ever guess what these people are gonna bring. Like, there was some wild stuff in there, man.
That almost begs the question, like, should people play control decks at like IQs? Like, because it's so hard to like get your side. Like, I don't think you're ever gonna have a correct 75 in an IQ.
No,
Like,
never. And, it's like it's the same thing of just like, why would you bring a control deck to a weekly, right? And it's like, people always are going to play their fun, cool decks. Like, dude, in Modern, I'm always going to be playing Esper 100% of the time.
Right.
Right.
Especially at FNM, right?
Especially at FNM. Like, it's what's going to happen. Like, you can't, so I just think, like, try and be as diverse as you can. But I think also it's important because if you don't have, like, buys or stuff at opens, the first 2 rounds, you're going to play against some random stuff.
Yeah.
For this event, I played against Jeskai Auras and Red-White Knights.
Whoa.
Like, so, you can metagame as much as you want, but, like, you'll play against random stuff no matter what. I think, I personally value playing in paper a lot. I almost exclusively play in paper.
Okay.
I don't have a Moto account. I don't have an Arena account.
Wow. Not even Arena, huh?
Nope. I literally just play paper with my friends. That's the only way I test. It's the only way I do anything. We have like a gauntlet and do all that.
Yeah.
I just think paper is super important, and just like,
getting
helps
the physical mechanics. Sorry to interrupt, but like getting the physical mechanics down is like something that I got so many GRV. Like, I don't ever play paper anymore. Like, all my testing is on Moto, and there was so many. I got like 3 GRVs between the 2 tournaments. Like, I activated Narset and then like looked at the top 5 cards like an idiot, just because Moto does it for me. Like,
yeah.
Like, I was just like boop 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 boop, and then I activated Castle Vantress, and I like looked at the top 3 or something, because apparently that card is Search for Azcanta or whatever.
Yeah.
It's like Moto, and then like my opponents all weekend were great. So shout out if any of my opponents are watching or listening to this or whatever. You were all great, because I was just like, oh my god, I'm sorry, I play on Moto a bunch, like, so they were all super understanding. But yeah, I think that is like something that a lot, and I definitely know, I don't play in paper, so getting the physical mechanics down is like huge. So
yeah, and it's like, there's so much like on top of the physical mechanics, because it is important. I mean, like, there's like a lot of little things that you can do when you're playing paper to just like force yourself to remember, and then like if you play like 100 games with this card in paper, you're gonna remember, right?
Right.
But it's also just like it can help you play faster, especially if you're playing control. The clock is a real issue. It helps you play faster. It helps you get used to a lot of games in paper. It helps you, like, if I have like an 8-hour playing session with some of my friends, it's gonna help me get used to, like, that's about a day at an open, right?
Yeah. So I did go to an F&M last weekend, and 4 rounds felt like an eternity to me.
Yeah.
So,
and it's just like, there's a lot of upsides to playing online that you just can't ever get playing in paper, but I just really like playing in paper. It also reminds me of like when I first started playing, and it's just like
the camaraderie.
Just sitting there, BSing, just like having a good time. So
absolutely.
There's a lot of value to it that I think people might underplay now that we have access to, Arena and PGM. And stuff.
For sure. No, I definitely agree, and I wish that I could get out a little bit more and
but like, that comes to the benefits of these online things is like, if you've got family, job, things
Yeah.
like that, are very real and everyone does and has,
Right.
right? You're not able to go to every F&M. You're not able to go every week, like weekly modern, event. Sometimes the only way you can play is online. So
Yeah.
I just think, that people who have the opportunity should try and explore a little bit more.
Yeah. No, I definitely agree. Cool. So moving on, obviously you just had an incredible weekend, top forward. That's probably a huge notch on your belt for your 2020 goals. But what are your
Yeah.
other goals for 2020 in terms of Magic?
In terms of Magic, I just I just want to keep on doing relatively okay with Esper and Modern. I really want to just I want to keep fighting for this archetype so people can maybe one day realize that it's like it's really strong. And
Yeah.
I
Dude,
mean, of course I'm biased. I'm super biased, but
you
like,
got to get on Moto and get you some 5-0s with that deck. Get it
yeah,
some clout, man.
there's that. But then, like, at the same time, it's just like, it's mine. It's like, it's my
Oh,
deck. I'm not,
yeah.
but at the same time, it's just like I want people to see how cool this deck is. So I should probably get online and do Moto more, but I'm gonna try and see if I can just have a bunch of good results, and then maybe people will see from there.
Awesome. So are you going to another Open anytime soon?
Yeah.
Or
Unfortunately, I have to work during Baltimore, but I'm going to Syracuse. I
Nice.
should be going to Worcester. I should be going to just about every single other SCG outside of Baltimore. I'm going to be playing in regionals. I will be playing Esper, obviously.
Oh, yeah.
I'm still debating if I want to play like Snow Esper or like, something special.
Yeah.
But we'll see.
Awesome. So just
So,
keep on grinding away at the
I
SCG
guess
circuit, basically, is
pretty
your
much. And I think if like a specific goal for short term, I want to top eight another regionals. That'd be sick. I top eighted the last one, so I just want to top eight this one too.
awesome.
So
Yeah, I think that's a pretty good goal. It's just like I know, and I've had people on, and they said, "Oh, I want to, top 8 in Open or top 8 at GP or win an Open or whatever." I think putting not like these things, right? These benchmarks, like I need to day 2 this or I need to top 32 that or whatever. I think it can be so stressful if you go, you spend the entire weekend, weeks and weeks in testing, and then you say you fall short, and then it just like so demoralizing. So I think having goals that are more generalized is typically better, just personally.
yeah, and I think that's a really good point, because I think also having it kind of helps keep me from getting burnt out really quick,
Yeah.
because I think if I try and like it's important to like prepare and everything for events, but I think if I try and like make it too big of a deal,
Yeah.
I lose sight of why I'm really there to have fun and enjoy the time with my friends and things like that, right?
Right.
So I think if you just kind of like rein it in, keep it short-sighted. Yeah, I want to do well at regionals. Should be awesome if I top 8. That's probably my next goal. But outside of that, just kind of like keep it relatively minimal.
Yeah.
It helps keep you from like getting too psyched out about it.
Absolutely.
Of like getting in the mindset of like I have to top 8 this or I have to do this.
Putting too much pressure on yourself, and then
and
yeah. No,
then you start linking your self-worth to like how you end up doing in these events, and that's just like
yeah, absolutely.
And a set of randomness to it. Like it doesn't matter how much you prepare. Sometimes if you flood 2 games in like 2 rounds in a row, it sucks. You're out, right?
Absolutely.
Or, like, sometimes your opponent just like thoughtseize you 3 times on a multi-5, and it's just like nothing you can do.
yeah. That was one thing during the classic. Actually, after so it was 8-round tournament. After the 7th round, I was 5-2, going in to play for top 32, which was prizes. And I actually stopped, and like I was feeling good, obviously, I just rattled off 3 wins in a row or whatever. And I stopped and actually took a selfie because I wanted to remember like feeling good about it just in case I did lose. And I ended up losing. I played against like a mono red deck, and he just like, like turn your dude sideways. Like it was 3 games, but I did end up losing, and I just after the match on the ride home, I just like looked at the picture. I was like, okay, I can be comfortable with the weekend because you got to remember the highs, because it's so easy. And I feel like I say this almost every podcast, but it is so easy to fall into a funk if you don't find the results you're looking for. Like, remember the times and why we all started playing, which is because this game's fucking awesome. I never curse on this podcast, but it is. Yeah. And it's just the best game ever.
Yeah, I agree.
All right, I'll get down from the soapbox. But so, obviously you have, you're building, you said you top 8'd regionals. Obviously you just top 4'd the Open. You're building a bit of a pedigree for yourself, bit of a, little couple of results for yourself. Yeah. What is one of the biggest tips you have for newer control players coming into the format or coming into the archetype?
Well, I mean, it's going to dabble a little bit on what I just said.
Sure,
play some games in paper, get used to your deck in paper.
Yeah.
It's different than Moto.
Can confirm. Can confirm.
And then also, like, sometimes playing your first event in paper versus the Moto, you get a little case of the shakes. You feel your adrenaline start to pump.
Oh, yeah.
Right? You get calm down. Get used to the feeling. Have like a little thing you do between rounds to kind of refresh yourself. I always try and go to the bathroom, wash my hands. Literally just to like go in, wash my hands, splash some water in my face, go back
out. That's good. Yeah, no, I do that too.
Just
if I have time for it, right? Sometimes we don't have that luxury as control players.
Oh yeah, for sure. Sometimes you get, you play against John and you end up going like, for like 65-minute game, and where you win in like turn 4 turns, and you're like, oh okay.
Yeah.
You need just to like, they take your match slip up and like boom, parries are up. So, but outside of that, I think finding a way to like refresh yourself between rounds is really important, because our decks take a while to win sometimes. Sometimes you get like the aggro draw, right? Several times I drew hands of just like, turn 3 Gideon, turn 4 Elspeth, and killed my opponent in like 10 minutes.
Hot.
Right. Yeah, it was super sick. It felt really good, especially when they had only like 2 mana up, and you're like, oh cool, and they're holding dispute. Well, dispute this,
Oh man, love it.
But sometimes just like finding something, even if it's like do a lap around the thing, or listen to some music. Yeah. Just find something
to basically, like, what it sounds like is just like recalibrate yourself.
Exactly.
Don't focus on the round before, because it literally doesn't matter, right?
It doesn't matter.
It does not matter. Win or lose or draw. You got to focus up on the next set.
Doesn't matter. Exactly. Nothing last round. Nothing that happened last round is going to change what happens this round.
Absolutely.
Just like recollect yourself. I think outside of just that, growing as a player, take notes of your matches. Be very critical. I think a lot of people, yes, there are games where it's like, I flooded, there's nothing I could have done, or like,
you miss your 4th land drop and literally just.
You kept a great 3-land 4-spell hand of like, 1 drop, 1 drop, 2 drop, 4 drop, right?
Yeah.
4 drops verdict, you have like op, path, mana leak, and then you just never find a 3rd drop, a 4th land, and you just die.
Yep.
Sometimes it happens.
But,
yeah. Be critical about every play you make. Everything can make a difference. You have to take it critically. Even if you lost from flood, think back. What could you have done better? Could you change?
Right. Maybe that hand was a mulligan.
Exactly.
Maybe you kept like Teferi 3, Teferi 5 verdict opt and 3 lands, and maybe that's just not good enough. Maybe an extra 1 draw isn't enough, right? Like
the matchup, you're just like, maybe it's not like, that hand is pretty bad versus mono red, especially on the draw, right?
Yeah.
In modern, or even a pioneer, but then like, just be incredibly critical about everything, so that way you build up. It helps you build up a lot faster the standard of hands you have to keep, or like the standard of plays you have to hold yourself at to be successful.
Yeah,
right?
There's a guy on Twitter who has started tagging me and a couple other blue-white players, and he has like just like 5 or 6 hands. It's like keeper mull but for like 5 or 6. So that's really cool that he's doing that. I think that's a great way to if you do have Twitter, obviously, like that would be a good way, tag some of the players that you respect, and see, what they would keep or mulligan. I thought that was really cool. I unfortunately can't remember his tag, or else I would definitely shout him out. But I think that was like a really innovative way to try and, to your point, like decide whether a hand is keepable or not.
Yeah, and again, the only way that you're going to figure that out is if you like try it, right?
Oh yeah,
you're never going to know, because like on paper, like the hand you were just saying, like opt verdict, small Teferi, big Teferi, 3 lands sounds great, right? But like until you actually do something with it, you won't find out. Another thing I remember earlier, we were talking about John Farrow. He helped me like level up and grow as a player.
Yeah.
One of the things that he said is just like in your downtime, just goldfish it. Like just goldfish it, explore hands. Just even if you don't have an opponent, and it's really hard to goldfish playing control because all your spells are so interactive.
Yeah.
Just kind of like play some mental magic. Just try and figure out how the hands would go. Right.
Absolutely.
And just like always be thinking about it. That definitely helped me grow a lot, because I think it's almost like a trap to think like, oh yeah, I can't goldfish with control because we're so interactive. But sometimes it's just important to just pick up your deck and just play with it.
Absolutely. Oh yeah, I mean, I used to do that all the time.
Exactly.
Or if you do happen to have like another deck, like if you have Jund or Storm or like whatever, play both sides of it. Like sit down. If you don't have a buddy, or it's like late at night or whatever and you can't sleep, sit down and play both sides. It's really hard to kind of like do that, but it's possible, right? You can kind of try and do it to where, oh, I'm not going to play this because I know that in the other hand there's a counterspell or whatever, but it's possible. So I think absolutely gold fishing, playing through matches on your own, definitely a good way to kind of up your awareness of what the potential is for the deck that you have.
Yeah, and I think also watch content creators. Watching better control players play control will help you understand how to be better.
Sure.
And it's like also also obviously to like a certain extent that's true, but seeing like I want to watch like one of your streams, seeing what kind of hands you keep, why you make these plays, and why you do these things would help me grow and understand, because also no control player plays it exactly
the same. It's crazy. Like
we can debate like 50 lines, and just like, oh, you could have done this, but I can
percentage wise. And that's another thing too, is like some people are super analytical and go with the numbers, and then some people just go with their gut, and sometimes, I mean, I would argue there's no right way. I would argue that, because sometimes people just have that soul read, right? That is a gift that some people just have. And then others, obviously, and especially with control players, I've met many control players, and a lot of them, I would say over 70% of them are more analytical than not. But like that works too. Both can work. You just got to stick to what you're good at and really hone it.
Exactly. And like, I think that's really important. It's just doing that, and because I mean, from my experience with John has the soul read usually,
Nice.
Yeah, he's like on some level got like the math, but like for the most part, I've seen him keep like 2 lanterns, and he's like, yeah, I'll draw it. Like the hand's great. If I draw it, I win the game. If I don't draw it, I lose. I'm up a game. I've got the feeling that it's gonna really work. I'm like, dude, I mean, whatever floats.
That's funny you say that too, because that's something on stream I say all the time. If I have like Omen of the Sea, 2 lands, and like some interaction or whatever, like maybe a seal away and a verdict or whatever, I'll be like, well, if I don't draw lands, I'm literally not going to win anyways, so I might as well just like keep this Omen of the Sea dot hand and let it fly. Because
I'll say I kept 1,000,000 2-land Omen of the Sea hands at the event, and like I'd say about 90% of them paid off. Omen of the Sea.
Omen of the Sea's nuts.
Nuts card. Oh god, that card is so nuts.
Yeah, I was like super skeptical on it, right? And like I know Skuro was like off the rip when that set came out. He's like, we're playing 4 of these. Never mind opt, we're playing this card. And I'm like, and then I like played with it, and then obviously you top 8'd with it, and I'm like, all right, I'm in on this. So
yeah, I remember I felt the same way. I was like, John, are you sure we're playing this? And he's like, it's so nuts, just play it.
Have you read it? Like,
it's like you read the same card, right? And I'm like, yeah, but I like one of my other friends, his name's Cameron. He plays a lot of like Shadow and stuff like that. He was
Sure.
like super against Omen of the Sea because when you play like Shadow and other decks like that, he was playing Inverter. He got I think he got like 11th or 12th at the Open.
Oh
So
wow, nice.
he also did super well. Shout out to Cameron Neighbors,
Yeah,
but
big shout out.
you know, he was talking about like he was a really big proponent of playing Opt instead, just because of like the efficiency of Opt. Yes, you don't see an extra card, but it's only 1 mana.
That's what
You know,
my argument was, but turns out
and
Teferi, Hero of Dominaria, is really good with 2 drops.
whoa, yeah, and it's just like I talked with John about it because I was talking with my friends about John's list and stuff, and that was like the only concern that they really had, and John's like, he gave me the argument for it, and it was like, are we really being super concerned about being incredibly mana efficient in this deck? Not really.
That is a fair point.
Are we really that concerned about it?
Yeah.
No. On top of that, you're seeing an extra card. We got a lot of silver bullets.
Yep.
Sometimes you have to like scry away the seal aways and Azorius charms to find the censors and the sinister sabotages, right, and vice versa. So
Absolutely.
also the format's not super aggressive. It's okay to just tap out on 2, especially if you're on the play. It's not a big deal. There were so many lines where I was just like, turn 2 that, turn 3 Teferi Bouncer Guy, turn 4 Verdict.
Yeah. And it's
Right.
like just super good too, because like there's so many things we could do on turn 2. Like we could seal away, we could just cast
Exactly.
Omen of the Sea, we could cast Azorius Charm, right? Like
I mean, like, a bajillion games, I just curved out irrigated farmland into untapped land, go, and then just hold up like 3 spells in my hand.
Yeah.
I can cast any of them, Censor, Charm, or Seal. So,
Yeah. Absolutely.
Yeah.
Right on. So about your performance in the Open, you obviously you had a great 2-day run. It's insane. You were the only the only blue-white control deck that even scratched anywhere near the top 8, sniffed it.
Yeah.
Take us through it. Like you said, you played 5 times against Inverter. I know in the pre-show you said you played a bunch against Sultai.
Mm-hmm. All right, so like I was saying earlier, I played against 2 random decks the first 2 rounds.
Yeah, which you have. You have that sometimes at Opens.
Knights, and I played against Jeskai Auras.
Is it okay if we cook?
Yeah, you're fine. All right, sorry about that.
No, you're good.
But I played against Jeskai Auras, and then I played against the Red White Knights. So, but like after that, it was all just like a bunch of real decks I played against. Round 3, I played against Sultai. Not quite Delirium, but it was like Sultai value.
Sure.
And I just played like, basically better for me because he was playing more trackers, but he wasn't playing Ishkanah or Emrakul or Nissa. So I was just kind
wow.
of, oh yeah, okay, sure.
Yeah, this is
I took
easy
it.
game, easy life.
Exactly. I was like, okay, yeah, like just keep on bouncing your tracker, and like post board, I was like gusting his tracker and stuff, and you like, so that was fine. I played against Bance Pierce only once, and I think I really attribute how well I did to only being lucky enough to play against it once.
Yeah.
That match was not stellar.
Yeah, it's not
I
great.
got super lucky when I played it. My opponent flooded game 1. He only found 1 company. He found all the spirits that didn't matter.
Oh wow.
And then like game 2,
No Quellers, eh?
yeah, no, he found like a Queller and like a Selfless Spirit. So I got super lucky. Game 2, I had like a very profitably interacting hand of just like, a bunch of like 2 mana things to like get his counter spell spirits out of the way to jam a Settle on 4. And that just helped a lot.
Feels
Yeah.
so nice.
Yeah. Yeah, I got a little lucky there. And then like, there was like one turn where he like rebuilt and deployed a bunch of guys, and I like just jammed 2 planeswalkers. And it was Gideon and Small Teferi, and I'm just like plus bounce go, and I'm just like hope he doesn't find Double Lord to kill me, because if he finds Double Lord, I'm dead. and he whiffed on his company. He found one Lord and a Mausoleum Wanderer. And yeah, exactly. And I had to run tap land, so I crack Omen in my upkeep, scry Verdict at the top, draw Verdict, play land, play Verdict, easy game. And it was just, I felt so good. Outside of that, I played Inverter once, and then that was the end of my non-Sultai matchups. After that, all of day one, I played against Sultai from round 6 forward. I lost to Matt Dilks.
It's a respectable loss.
Yeah, lost it. And like post board, I had to find hand, but then I just like all my 2 lands. I probably should have mulliganed to like a more spell intensive hand, but I kind of treated it like Jund in Modern, where like they're gonna disrupt your hand anyways.
Yeah,
might as well guarantee your land drops. I kept it like I think like a 4 or 5 lander with like Omen plus Verdict, and he like thought he's out my Omen, and I just proceeded to draw lands.
Oof.
But I probably should have mulliganed. And then after that, I just stomped every Sultai opponent I played for the rest of the day. Turns out Dream Trawler's nuts. Dream Trawler's a broken card.
So good. So many decks just cannot beat it, period. Just like
actual
factual can't beat the card.
Just like jam it on 6, pass. They have no answer. I protect it. I untap, play Teferi plus the Teferi, hit them for a billion, gain a billion, games. Like, it was insane. And then like, there were twice where I Dream Trawlered, and then like off the attack of my first Dream Trawler found me the second Dream Trawler, so I played second Dream Trawler, and then the game's just no reason to keep playing.
Yeah.
And then game 2, I played against Feather, which was actually that deck's a real deck. It was really aggressive. He got me pretty good game 2, almost got me game 1. I had like a veto for like Boros Charm, I think game 1, and then game 2 he killed me with Boros Charm.
Yeah.
And then game 3, I had to settle one guy to not die.
Oh my god, that feels so bad. It was like an 8/8 though, right? Like those things get huge. All the creatures get massive.
It was like the 1/2, the stupid like a Crowan something.
Yeah, Crusader.
It's one counter, but had to settle that to not die.
Yeah,
so
that's rough.
Yeah. Let me see. And then like after that, it was just Inverter. It was like insane players playing Inverter for the rest of the day.
Yeah, you said it was like basically everybody that was in top 8. You just had to play.
Yeah, every person that was in top 8, I pretty much had to play. So turns out game 1's really bad. Post board's really good. You just be aggressive and get under them. Like my post board matches versus Collins Mullen was streamed. You guys should go watch it. It was literally game 1. I was aggressively looking for Gideon, and I didn't find it, so I just conceded really early to save time. Like I wasn't like super dead on board, but like I just didn't feel like there was a reason to keep playing. I should just concede and save time. And then after that, I just like jammed a bunch of threats really early. Yeah. You know, jammed in on 3 every time. They don't really play Censor, and they play like Mystical Dispute.
Yeah.
And they can't dispute it if they only have 2 lands or something like that. And they're usually doing something. So like if like there were plenty of times where they jammed our set, I'm like, sure, untap, jam like Teferi or something. And then once Teferi's in play, you just jam everything else. And they always have like downfall too, so keep them. But after playing against all them, I ID, and then I played against like my best matchup in top 8 was Red Green dudes.
Oh my god, yeah, I saw that.
And this is like he's playing like a dude's deck versus my Verdict deck, so like
easy claps.
You know, Llanowar Elf versus Wrath of God. Wrath of God is going to win that one.
A tale as old as time.
Exactly. So that's pretty much it.
Yeah. And then obviously you played Inverter in the top 8.
I played Inverter in the top 8. I played Inverter 4 and kept a real bad 7 game 2.
Yeah. It happens. You know, we talked about it. You know, it happens. I'm sure. You know, again, don't want to speak for you, but I'm sure the nerves are getting to you. Not to make excuses or anything, but like
absolutely. And it's like again, there's no excuse. I should have taken a second to ground myself and calm myself and then make the correct choice. But I just absolutely did not. So
yeah, cool, man. Well, I mean, hell of a run, regardless of having one mistake there towards the end does obviously not feel great. But
No.
overall, you had a great run. You're
Yeah.
showing that, because I talk to a lot of people and they're like, oh, blue-white sucks in Pioneer. It just has
Dude,
bad matchups against everything.
Like the people I was staying with, one of the people I was staying with, like, dude, I really don't think this is the weekend for blue white, and I'm just like, it's the one deck I brought with me.
Right.
John told me it's good. I'm gonna trust John. So
absolutely,
it paid off for sure.
Right on. So that's actually a good segue into this next one. What are your thoughts on the state of state of Pioneer meta?
So Pioneer, I think Inverter might be a bit too good, but outside of that, like, it seemed pretty cool. I don't know, it's kind of Magic that a lot of people want to play.
Yeah.
Like, that Sultai deck was dope. It seemed like fun. I mean, like, every game was fun, interactive.
Yeah.
Things like that.
Like the Jund of Pioneer, basically.
Yeah, there were rarely any shutouts.
Yeah.
It felt fine. I didn't, like I said, Inverter's probably a little bit too good, but, like, it really reminds me of Modern when Twin was popular after they banned Birthing Pod.
Okay.
Right.
Yeah,
so,
I mean,
that reminds me of that kind of Modern. So
I think a lot of people loved that Modern format too.
Yeah.
So
personally, I was a big fan of it
Yeah.
too. So, outside of that, like, I think if they ban something, I don't know if I watched like LSV and
the bandwagon.
Not Madass. Somebody, but the bandwagon thing.
Yeah, the Matt Nass and LSV.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Cool.
I watched it. Yeah.
And they were talking about, like, maybe ban the Delve spells, or just, like, maybe if you just ban Dig Through Time, is the Treasure Cruise deck that much better? I don't think it would be better because they don't have, like, the selection, right?
Right.
So, yeah, probably maybe like something like that. I don't think Inverter should go, but I think maybe take some action.
Yeah, I definitely think the deck's very good. I always say that I don't like talking bans, and then every episode we talk bans, just because that's how Pioneer has been, really. I mean, ever since day one, they've been banning stuff left and right, which I agree with. Like, I'm super okay with the way that they did it, right? Like, let the kids play, basically, figure out what's wrong, and then whittle it down from there. And now the format's obviously at a pretty stable spot, but yeah, I think Inverter's just, like, far and away the best deck. I also think that Lotus is very good, but the thing with Lotus is just the way that deck plays out. People aren't going to, like, your average Magic player just is not going to play that deck, right?
Yeah.
Just because of how convoluted the lines are, how complex it is, and how it just doesn't. It's not a Magic deck, right? It's a Storm deck. That's obviously, like, there are Storm players who do nothing. They're much like Control players, kind of, some of them. They only play Storm, so...
Exactly. And I think on top of that, like, the thing about Lotus Breach is, like, it's a lot easier to hate on than...
Dampening Sphere, boop, boop,
Exactly. Like,
or,
just like Dampening Sphere.
Ash Zealot is one, too, that's been seeing play. Obviously, Eidolon of the Great Revel. Yeah, there's plenty of stuff to shut that deck down.
Yeah, for sure. And it's just, like, I think that... I think since it's a lot easier to interact with. I'm not saying don't do anything about the deck, but just, like, keep an eye on it. I think it's fine for now. If it gets probably, like, one more good piece, maybe.
Oh my god! Could you imagine another blue card that says "win the game" if you're or like another leveler type card? Oh my god!
Well, and it's just like, or like another, like, thing for just, like, another, like, untap my thing, draw a card for Breach or something. I think Breach is, like, one card away from being too good, and I think Inverter's at the point of being a bit too good.
Yeah.
So, just, like, wild. It just I can't imagine them printing something else, but Wizards just kept on surprising me with some of the wild stuff.
I mean, they, Mark Rosewater at the end of 2019 said they're not, these next couple sets with Theros and Ikora? I don't know. Yeah. The Land of Behemoth, the Vivian set, are both going to be, like, pedal to the metal. They're both going to be very good sets. And obviously, Theros has been insane. Very good cards. I don't think anything really I wouldn't even say that like Breach and Thassa's Oracle, I mean, yeah, they're in the same set, which is kind of crazy. But I don't think like they're too much, right? Like obviously Oko is just miserable, Veil of Summer's miserable, like
Theros is like, I don't think individually any of the cards were too good.
exactly. Yeah.
Like, I don't think none of the cards were like, an Urza where you look at that and you're like, what are you doing?
Has been a $50 card since pre-sale, basically.
Yeah, where you're just like, dude, what? This card is begging to get broken.
Right.
Like the closest thing was Oracle, but even then you need so much setup for Oracle. Yep. So I think in the grand scheme of things, they did a really good job balancing the set. But I think that there's just like a lot of outside interaction they weren't expecting.
Yeah.
Right? Like there's the No Nauseam Oracle deck in Modern.
Mm-hmm. And the new Grinding Station Grixis Urza deck that I just did a deck tech on over on YouTube, so go check that out. But yeah, I mean, they've definitely been pushing the envelope, and I'm a fan. Like, would we rather have like crappy cards that no one wants to play with, or would we rather push the envelope? And I said this in a tweet. Like, no one's collection is more important than the overall health and growth of the game. I'm sorry, but it's true.
For sure. And then like on top of that, it's just like, I think there's like small progressing steps, like Oracle, right? But then I think there's like big leaps. Like I think Hogak was a leap. I don't, but at the same time, like I'm not sure if they were expecting it to make the splash that it made.
Yeah.
I mean, like obviously they weren't, but like, I think a card like that's way too good.
Yeah. And I mean,
but it doesn't on the surface seem way too good. Like Oko. When Oko was printed, I remember everyone was like, "Oh, that seems fine. It depends what foods do, right?"
Right.
Like,
that was the big thing. It's like, well,
yeah, like
do food draw cards, or like, what are we doing here? Like,
yeah. As it turns out, cards not even probably. I think me personally, best Planeswalker printed, one of the best cards ever printed.
Yeah, Jason Mind Sculptor will always be my favorite Planeswalker for sure. But yeah, Oko has that mantle as better than all.
Yeah.
But I mean, it was looking for a second there. That was just going to get banned in every single format, like every competitive format. It's even good in Commander, which like rarely happens that a card is good in constructed and good into Commander.
It's nuts. It's nuts. The card's nuts. I remember like literally towards the end of that Modern, I was just playing 4-color control with Oko and Esper Charm.
Oh my god!
But literally, I mean, it was just like I was like, I don't know what else I can do, man. But I don't know how else I can combat this.
But to your point, like that card didn't look busted. I was just like, it looks good. It'll see playing standard, and then like they're like, here's a gang of blue-green cards that goes along with it, and it just so happens to just break everything.
And I think Modern Oko wise was kind of like a perfect storm. I think like maybe if Urza wasn't there or something like that,
or Astrolabe, or
it would have been completely different. Sure. But I think all the pieces fell in place for the deck to be so insane. So
yep, no, I agree. And kind of moving on, transitioning, segueing into Modern meta. I know you wanted to talk about Esper control in Modern. So let's talk about the Modern meta, and that'll be the end of the show after we talk about Esper and Modern meta. So if you want to take that away, I know you wanted to preach some Esper propaganda to us, which I appreciate.
So, if we look at like some of the better decks right now, you have Lotus Breach, but then you also have like Amulet, and you have like Mono Red. Well, as it turns out, Esper Charm's really good versus Amulet. A lot of their plays ends up to where like they have like 2 cards in hand, or like they end up like with like 3 cards in hand or 4 cards in hand, and you just like end step Charm you, untap, like Sanctuary, put Charm on top, Astrolabe, Charm you, or
Gross.
Dude, there's so many filthy things, or like it just like sets you up to just like charm them down to 1. And then you're just sitting there with Cryptic, because they'll often sandbag their Cavern of Souls against you. So you can there's like a lot of really cool things you can do by like, because they sandbag the Cavern of Souls, you can like force them to discard it or force them to hold it. And then there's like a lot of cool things. And I think like versus mono red, you have like push out of the board or push of the main or like Kaya's Guile, so good.
Oh my god, that card is nuts.
Yeah. Like Edict you game for, Edict you exile your yards so you can't cast Bedlam Reveler. There's just so many good things. And then like game one is so hard unless you find your one Kaya's Guile. Like I play one Kaya's Guile in the main deck and then 3 Mystic Sanctuaries. So you like cast the first Guile and then you Sanctuary it on top and then you cast it again and then you Sanctuary it on top and then you cast it again. It's like, it's just like nuts.
They just can't win. They cannot win through that.
Exactly. And then also play like 3 snaps. So you can like snap Charm or like snap Guy. Like there's just so many cool things, dude. The deck's so dope. Please, people, try it. Small Teferi pickup Astrolabe's always constant line, or like pick up a snap, or like there's just so much cool stuff. I think more than just Esper, like Explore, Control, and Modern. Yes, there's a lot of broken stuff, but like this deck can like Control in general can be really good. Cryptic Command's really good. Jason's
gotta
really
fight the good fight, man.
Exactly. And I think in regards to like the Breach deck, I've been having to test against it a few times, and it's like, Charming Breach is not unreasonable. Like it does say Esper Charm does destroy enchantments.
Yeah, that's nuts.
It is. Also, it kind of like falls into the same thing that I don't know if you remember the Urza Outcome deck, but what that deck did is it would often like play a bunch of dudes out, like play a bunch of like artifacts and stuff out, and then pass. But then be like, it does the same thing that Amulet does, is they have like all these enablers that let them play their things fast, and they're sitting on like their big cards, so you can just pretty much like charm out their big cards, right? So just things like that. They're just things to like keep in mind, right? And as far as like mono red goes, you can deal with dudes pretty easy. Post board, you can gain a lot of life. I mean, even pre board, it's pretty reasonable to win. Right.
If you're playing like a bunch of Kaya's Guiles, you're just like,
exactly. Well, it's like
sweet burn deck.
Yeah. The current list I'm playing, it's only 1 Guile in the main deck, and then I board into Guile Timely.
Oh my god.
So it's like
that sounds great.
Like, no, I'm just not losing to, because Guile's also good against graveyard decks like the new Dread deck and stuff like that. But then also just like I think in the grand scheme of Modern, as cheesy as it sounds, Charm does pan out pretty well with like how decks usually like deploy their hands and stuff. Charm ends up working pretty favorably. So, that's my little spiel. Please,
absolutely, yeah.
Questions or concerns or anything, please just like tweet me or something like that, or message me on Facebook.
So are you writing articles anywhere now that you got a little?
I just wrote a tournament report that should be up on Monday. It's on my LGS's website.
Awesome. You have to send me that link so I can put it in the show notes.
Yeah, absolutely. I'll do that. And then like the article's not posted yet, but I said, it should be posted on Monday. I'll send you the link to the website though.
Absolutely.
I've also, the Modern Blue White X Control group, I post stuff.
You talking about on Facebook and Fran's on Fran's group, yeah.
And then, but I'm going to try and post more articles about Control on the Win Condition Games website. So please, keep an eye out there.
Awesome.
And I think it's important to like stay up to date and read stuff and listen to podcasts like these and watch play Control just to stay up to date and like what's going on. So.
Absolutely. No, I think you've went from playing, lunch break or at lunch in high school, and now you just made a bunch of cash, top fouring SCG Open. I'm sure, 2020 is fresh, right? We're into March 1st as we record this, but got a lot of 2020 left, and I'm sure that you're going to just keep crushing with Blue White. I was super stoked. Like, it was so funny because somebody's like, yeah, Blue White's like X1 or like whatever, like going into day 2. And I was like, who is it? And I found out it was you. I was like, oh my God. It's because I joke you not.
Yeah.
Harry was like, yeah, you gotta hit up that Esper guy. I was like, all right, yeah, I'll I put you on my list on Twitter and followed your, and it was super cool that it was you. And yeah, I mean, keep crushing, keep spreading some control pop propaganda, as it were.
I will do my best. I really appreciate I appreciate all you do for the community and everything. Like, like I said, people at my LGS do watch this podcast and stuff like that.
Awesome.
So,
Hell yeah.
It's really nice to see. I want you to know that you make an impact on the community, and people do watch and they do learn.
That's awesome. That's what from day one, I said it. I think I said it at the beginning of the cast. Just want to get better and want to help others get better. Not through only me, but having people on like you, having people on like Doom Switch and Skura, and I'm gonna have to get John on because he's been out here and I've seen his results on Moto. He's up there with like 5 or 6 trophies or whatever.
He's literally so good. It was funny. He's actually on my team for Worcester because I was like, John, you have to go out and play more events, please. And he's like, I hate traveling, blah blah blah.
Yeah.
And I'm like, it ended up being like, John, if I top 8 this, you have to come play. Like, you just have to come play. And so this was like round 2, right? And I'm like just 2-0, and he's like, okay, yeah, sure, that's fine. And then I kept on updating with my records, and he's like, man, I'm really gonna get my words, aren't I? And I'm like, yeah.
Yeah. That's like, oh my gosh, that's funny. It's like, hey mom, you'll go buy me a new car if I get like how many likes, and they're like, oh, 1 million, and like it blows up. Like that's what you did to him. Oh, that's funny.
Really happy he's finally going to be going out. He, like I said, easily one of the best players I know.
Don't let him skip out on it or back out.
Oh,
make him commit.
I won't.
Have him prepay for the hotel or something. Like,
yeah.
Oh man. Okay. Well, I mean, this was a blast. I'm so glad that you were able to come on and talk some Azorius and Pioneer and some Esper and Modern, and just generally talk about your experience and your background in Magic. I think if any of the listeners are listening to this, or any of the viewers on YouTube, give him a follow. It's at that Esper guy. He is a just wealth of knowledge for the archetype, and this is your first top 8, obviously. But I expect there to be more, especially if you're committing to grinding. That's the thing too, right? Like a lot of people like, oh, you don't have, everybody's like, oh, where's your top 8 or whatever, right? It's hard, man. It's hard to like go to these tournaments, and of course we all know this game has crazy variance, and the best player on the planet could literally just get pooped on and have a terrible hand. And if you don't get out, or if you're like John and you don't like to travel, no one will ever know of you. So
and then it's not not only that, it's just like
Uh-oh.
like archetype.
Hang on. You like cut out there.
Sorry.
Just no. I think it's something on my end. But if you want to just like restart from what you just said.
Pretty much it's like there's so many people out there who like are a wealth of knowledge on the archetype, and like even though they might not have an insane, results or crazy good records, they know what they're talking about, and they have good things to say, right? And even if like you don't agree with everything, it's important to think about control. We were talking about earlier. Everyone plays the art deck different. There are a lot of like 50-50 lines, or even you could argue like 30-70% lines of just like there's so many things that you could discuss, and nobody plays the same, so it's important to get a bunch of different perspectives to help sculpt how you play.
Yeah, and I mean, that's so true. Like, there's times when I've been at LGSs with there's like two other control players that are like Steven and Paul. Two of the like local dudes that all three of us play Azorius, and it's like it's so crazy how differently we play, because one of them will make a play and I'll be like, what the hell? And usually it works out because they're both pretty good players or whatever. So it's like, and then we talk about it and then they explain it and it's like, oh, okay, that's your line of thinking. So yeah, man. But yeah, everybody go follow him on Twitter. And all his information will be in the show notes. I will get me that website.
I will.
And I will post that in the show notes.
Yep. And I will also be tweeting the article when it comes out and everything like that.
I will pop that a retweet as well.
Yeah.
So. And
then also please go follow John. I don't remember what his Twitter is.
I think it's like MRT. I don't know.
I remember when he made it. It was right after Narset came out, and he made it to post screenshots of all of his opponents playing one. It was so funny.
That's how I found him. I was like, wait, is this Twitter account literally just devoted to people punting against Narset? And for like the first month, that's all it was.
It's so funny because it used to just be, we were in like a big group chat with a bunch of our friends, and he'd always just post like another one. And I remember it would always be like, I'd go to sleep and wake up in the morning, and he like played like a week or two at night, and would just like post all the punts. And it was like right around the time of like Faithless looting, so people like loot right into it.
Oh my God, yeah.
Dude, that's on one. What are you doing? So, yeah.
So his Twitter handle is @MTR483. And that's John Farrow, the architect of the deck that you took to the top 4.
Infinite props, John. He gave me Cyborg Guide. We had like an hour-long talk about matchups, roles and matchups. I wouldn't be here without him. Please go follow this guy. Yeah. He's great.
Absolutely. I definitely co-sign that. But yeah, everybody, that's going to do it for this week's episode. Thank you, everyone, for watching or listening if you're on the podcast. Make sure to subscribe and like if you are on YouTube. Of course, shout out to the sponsor, Solitary Pro, and all of the lovely patrons. Again, if you do enjoy the content here and find value in it's a weekly episode. It's a weekly podcast. I do put a lot of time and effort into this, so if you appreciate that, go on over to patreon.com/LesAlex. Of course, that information will be in the show notes below. And if you buy Magic cards on TCG Player ever, use my affiliate link in the description below and help me out a little bit. Head on over to Apple Podcasts, give me a 5-star review. I don't want any 1 stars because it's not cool, bro. Just DM me and tell me that you hate my podcast. Although I don't know why you're listening to it.
I don't know why. Yeah. I know. I've watched a lot of these episodes. I don't know why people would hate this. There's wholesome control content. We're just here to cast Mana Leak, bro. Just
right?
come on.
Cryptic commands and Mana Leaks.
Exactly.
And then I do have merch again, the Control Freak logo, and I have a new logo as well. That is on Teespring. I'll put that information in the show notes as well. You can get a hoodie or a t-shirt or whatever, and of course that definitely helps out. But yeah, everybody, thank you all for listening. I do stream over on twitch.tv/LesAlex 4 nights a week. And yeah, thank you, everyone. Keep spreading that Azorius propaganda. And of course, be kind to one another. Have a great night.